I know good afternoon those elsewhere in the UK. So I would like to welcome you all in today's session and again to sharing an important aspect of cancer control with the African Cancer Research and Control ECHO program. My name is Annette Nakaganda, a cancer epidemiologist at the Uganda Cancer Institute, and I will be leading today's session. I would like to welcome especially those attending this Africa ECHO for the first time. As you may have heard already, this ECHO aims at expanding and sustaining best practices for cancer control and planning in Africa, as well as increasing the utilization of evidence in directing the cancer control effort. So today's session is specifically about discussing current funding for cancer research in African region and the impact of the COVID pandemic on cancer research and research funding from the perspective of international cancer research partnership. And we want specifically to really discuss the implication of this impact towards the whole cancer control planning and implementation in Africa. I therefore welcome everyone once again to this important discussion. And before I invite our speaker today, I want to remind you that we shall have one presentation today as detailed, major presentation today as detailed on the agenda you have, and then have a detailed discussion about this important aspect. And then we shall have few minutes to welcome and introduce the new leadership, the new steering committee for this African ECHO for the coming year that is starting in August until September 2021. I would like also to remind you to mute your microphone, please, if you're not speaking. And if your bandwidth permits, please, I request you to turn on your video throughout this discussion, as we like so much to see your faces. In addition, please use the chat window at any time to introduce yourself, ask a question, or make any comments. And I also want to remind you that we are recording these sessions, and the recordings will be sent out to everybody who shared their email contacts with the African Cancer Research and Control ECHO Secretariat. So at this time, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Lynn Davis, who is going to take us through the next session. As Dr. Lynn pulls out her slides, allow me to introduce Lynn briefly. Lynn is an operational manager at International Cancer Research Partnership, commonly known as ICRP. Lynn enjoys working with an active network of international funders to enhance global collaboration in cancer research. She obtained her PhD from University of Oxford and did a postdoctoral research on leukemia, molecular biology, and diagnostics in London. Her prior experience includes working in research management, strategy, and evaluation of cancer research in UK and the European Union, ERANET, and the UK National Cancer Institute. So Lynn, we are really very excited, and thank you so much for your time, and everybody is looking towards hearing from you. Over to you, Lynn.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm really delighted to be able to speak to you today. I'll just share my screen briefly. Oh, yeah. Actually, I can't share my screen. It says it's disabled for participants.
Yeah, Nichka is going to enable you in a minute. Please.
Oh, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, it looks like you should be able to share. Try.
Let me just try again. Yes, there. Perfect. I was just
great. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see. Make it a bit larger. Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Great. Let me just check that the navigation is working. Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the International Cancer Research Partnership. We have also going to talk about what we do, maybe a little bit of a focus on partners funding in sub-Saharan Africa, as that may be of interest to the group, and also to look at the impact of COVID-19 on research funding, which is something that we've been particularly interested in the last few months. And then obviously to have a discussion, to receive any ideas and suggestions. So just to start off, what is ICRP? The International Cancer Research Partnership started up in 2000, and it was initiated actually by the US National Cancer Institute, who were looking for a system to be able to classify their cancer research portfolio. And they invited 8 organizations at the time to work with them on this. And our network has now expanded to include 29 partners who represent 139 international funding organizations. And by the end of September, we'll have a few more. So our current partners are from Australia, Belgium, Canada, France, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, and United Kingdom and US. But we would love to have more partners in other countries, and we're actively looking to have more cancer research funding organisations join our network, so we can complete the picture of research funding internationally. You can see on the slides here, there are some of our partners' logos. So we have some of them I'm sure will be familiar to you, and the NIH, obviously, and National Cancer Institute, and with Mishka, Kalina, Satish, and various others are represented on the call already. So we are very, very keen to ensure that we have as many organisations as possible joining, so we can really see a good picture. So what do we do? Our aim is not to duplicate what other organisations are doing, but rather to add value to cancer research efforts by fostering collaboration and strategic coordination, specifically between cancer research funding organisations. So it's really about the cancer research funding, not so much on the cancer control side necessarily, or cancer care. We have as I mentioned, an active network of 139 organisations. We meet regularly. We have monthly teleconferences on which our partners can participate, and we do ensure that we rotate time zones so people can join in. We have a forum area on our website so that people can share ideas and information or ask for assistance, for example, in peer review, grants management and such like. So we share a lot of information between our partner organisations. Again, the whole focus is to try to avoid duplication between research funders and to share best practice where that is possible. We do quite a lot of data analysis based on our data. That's either at the national level or international, and it cuts across many different components. So we might look at childhood cancer, for example, is our current focus area. We're looking to see what the landscape looks like and who's funding what and where there's any gaps. And one of our biggest initiatives, obviously, is our database. So we share online research portfolio data on the ICRP website, which is publicly available, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. And we have about 280,000 projects at the moment in the system. So in terms of our database of research, what we're really trying to do is to give people a sense of who is funding research, what research is being funded, where is it, and when is it happening. So we have the who aspect. All our projects that get uploaded to the database have a PI listed alongside collaborators where there are international collaborator data supplied. That's something that's relatively new for us, so it's growing all the time. And as you can see here, there's an example of a project where there's a PI in Boston, and then many collaborators across the world connecting, showing how those connections work. Within the database, there's research there that totals about $7.5 billion US equivalents per year. That comes from over 280,000 current and historical projects. And every single project that gets uploaded into the database is coded to the type of cancer, which is related to the ICD-10 cancer codes, and to what we call the CSO, or Common Scientific Outline, which is essentially type of research. So there are 38 categories organised into 6 headline categories here, such as going from biology, etiology of disease, prevention, diagnosis, prognosis, treatment, and survivorship. The database hosts research in nearly 4,000 host institutions and 61 countries across the world. So although our organisations who provide data currently come from primarily Europe, the US, Canada, Australia and Japan, a lot of those organisations fund research in many other countries. And we have complete data sets through from about 2005 to 2018. 2019 is getting towards completion as well. And we estimate that we're including about 65% of global cancer research in our database. So using the ICFP website and database, you can look at our database online. It's freely available to the public and has lots of structured data. Lots of structured data there, so you can see by the different types of research, by different cancer type. So very often people who log on to our database are using it to determine which fund is funding research in a particular topic. We know that people use it to locate potential research collaborators through our interactive map. People use it to avoid duplication. So for example, many of our organisations, when they have people applying to do research, ask them to ensure that an identical project isn't already funded by one of our other organisations. We also publish some of our portfolio analyses on our library so that people can have access to those, but we also commission particular bits of research based on the data. Within our partner site, we have an element on the back end which has some enhanced analysis tools for our partner organisations and access to funding data on a per project basis. And as I mentioned before, we've got various other sort of forum and webinars to share information. So when you look at the data, you can see a lot of detail per project. It tells you the title, when it's funded, whether it's charged with cancer or not. You can drill down into seeing the funding amounts. Projects are linked if they're connected to each other. Collaborator information is listed, where there are collaborators imported into the system, and there's a technical abstract to describe in some detail what that research is about. And of course, everything is then coded to a particular type of cancer and to what kind of research it is. In this instance, it's in the early diagnosis section. So I mentioned before that we're making sure that we're representing collaborations internationally. A few years ago, the NCI, who developed our website and database, very kindly created a new interface so that we could geocode all of the research that was going on and see where the collaborators were in different countries and in different regions. Collaborator data sets are starting to grow fast. Many of our organisations are now submitting that information to us, but it isn't complete as yet. Also, in developing the map, we've imported data from the GloboCan database. So there are statistical layers you can see. So you can look to see what funding is going into breast cancer, for example, and then overlay that with incidence, prevalence, and mortality statistics for those cancers. And that data is updated whenever the GloboCan databases are themselves updated. So it's possible to see what's being funded and then also link that to the statistical information that is available on a country basis. So how do we use the data? We're using it to do top-level trend analysis to see what research gaps there are, to track funding over time, and also to look at how collaboration is developing. So for the cancer research community and for our partners, essentially, that's to help people with things like strategic planning, looking at how to address research gaps within their organisations, and also looking for opportunities to collaborate. So one example we had recently was where we did an analysis on metastatic breast cancer, and as a result of looking at the analysis in that. Two other organisations, Susan G. Komen in the US and Cancer Australia, decided to co-fund a project, a call for proposals in that area, and were able to appoint PIs to projects over a few years. Another specific example that we've been looking at and will be a focus in the near future is looking at prevention research. So our initial analyses are suggesting that consistently over time, research into prevention, primary prevention, is a very low part of the portfolio, around 7% annually. We've been tracking this for some time, and as a result, some of our partners have started to make specific calls for proposals in that area. So the UK, for example, launched a national prevention research initiative that ran for several years, and one of our other partners, in California, had a global challenge contest for breast cancer prevention in 2019 to try to address some of the research gaps in these areas. But today I wanted to bring to you a little bit more information about some of the research that is funded in sub-Saharan Africa. We're working at the moment with a new coalition for implementation research in global oncology, which is funded by Bristol Myers Squibb. And we worked with them to identify what research activity we could see ongoing in the ICRP database. And the reason for doing this really is to help with building capacity, sharing what research is going on out there, and promoting collaboration if possible. So we had a look at our database, and between 2015 and 2018, we found that there were almost over 1,200 projects funded in sub-Saharan Africa, most by the USNCI, and that represented around $300 million per year, consistently around 4% of the total portfolio of research for that year. And that although the numbers of direct grants to institutions in sub-Saharan Africa is quite low at 4%, there are many projects which have co-PIs in the region, and there are lots of other projects where there isn't necessarily a co-PI noted, but from the data within the abstract and the keywords, we know that it's research relevant to cancer in sub-Saharan Africa. And there is some research as well which is relevant to all low to middle income countries, which is covered in that data set as well. So we found that there are over 28 organisations funding research in or focused on sub-Saharan Africa. And many of these, I guess, will be familiar, but some perhaps less so. So we have quite a lot of non-profits in the UK, Dutch Cancer Society in the Netherlands, some US non-profits, Alex's Lemonade Stand is a childhood cancer funder specifically. Susan G. Komen works on breast cancer. And then there are some international non-profits and organisations in Canada, which are both government and non-profit, alongside the NIH, of course. So we wanted to take a little look at this, to look at what type of research essentially was funded. So when we looked in more detail at those 1,200 projects, we found that there was a wide range of research, things like cost-effective radiation delivery, point-of-care cervical cancer diagnostic devices, most projects related to virally induced cancers, a small slice on tobacco control specifically, and then the others we didn't go into in great detail, but there's probably a lot of information within there that might be interesting to look at. And when we looked at what the type of research, it's very different to the profile that we saw before, where prevention was a very low percentage of the portfolio. So here you can see that research into the etiology of cancer and prevention of cancer and treatment is much more prevalent than in the overall international portfolio of research. And we're also interested in using the data to understand what kind of impact those projects might have made. So there are just a couple of examples here from one of our partners in the UK, showing that they have developed a diagnostic tools, for example. Models for tracking.
Oh, I seem to have lost Lynn.
Oh.
Oh, there she is. Sorry, Lynn, your audio went in and out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and the slides are no longer projected. Lynn, do you want to do it again?
And you're also on mute. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
There we go. That's great. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. A little wrinkle in the internet. Let's see.
No worries.
There we go. Where was I when I cut out? Did we get to this point or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Okay. So we've just talked about, the fact that it's challenging to consistently map the impact of research, but there are lots of systems that have been put in place over the last few years that are making it easier to track these things systematically. And we're looking now at how we can include that data within ICRP systems as well. So I did mention at the start, ICRP is not just about data. We're a group of funding organisations who are obviously very concerned about the impact of COVID-19 on cancer research funding. So this is what I just wanted to touch on for the last bit of the presentation. During our webinars in April and May, many of our members expressed concern about the potential impact on research funding specifically. So in response to their concerns, we set up a survey to assess the impact, and I asked about any ideas and best practice that funders could share to help deal with the effects of the pandemic too. Most of our respondents were from the non-profit sector, because I think evidently that is the sector that's been immediately hit by COVID-19 because of the lack of fundraising income from the streams that normally would have been in place. And it was quite worrying actually when we got the results back that over 60% of our respondents estimated the funds available for research this year would decrease. And there were estimates of decreases ranging from a 5% decrease through to 100%. In other words, that they had decided not to fund any calls at all in this year due to concern about income levels. And also there's a lot of concern about the impact in future years given the long-term effects on the economy. And I think you can see in the graph here that it's the non-profit sector here that really is bearing the brunt of the challenges, and that they are expecting significant decreases. We haven't worked on quantifying that specifically yet, mainly because a lot of our organisation said it's too early for us to tell what the full impact will be, but we know that there will be a significant impact. We asked a lot of questions in the survey, and I haven't put them all here, but we also asked them about what's the impact now on projects and programmes. 75% reporting that many or some research projects were operating at less than 100%, and similarly clinical trials with limited enrolment, many of those over 50%, and significant numbers have been entirely suspended. And I think that's in one of the projects I've worked on, it's very clear. They're looking at a telesurgery trial in bowel cancer to improve screening, and that was entirely suspended because the bowel cancer screening programs were suspended during COVID-19. So there are lots of interesting information coming out in a narrative. Clinical trials being pretty much on hold, lots of delays. We're interested in seeing whether there are particular areas that have been harder hit than others. And lots of questions were brought up. People were concerned about, will rarer cancer types receive less research funding? So there's some evidence in the UK, for example, that overwhelmingly the non-profits fund cancers of unmet need, such as brain cancer, pancreatic, etc. Will those suffer more than some other cancer types? We don't know the answer to that question yet. We were wondering about whether cancer research funding will be redirected to COVID-19 research. Will cancer research careers pathways be affected, especially early careers? That's something that we hope to follow up in a follow-up survey later this year. And also concern about how does reduced international mobility then affect training programs. So lots of concerns, but there were a few little positives. So people highlighted the fact that increased use of digital technology would perhaps enable people to improve international cancer research collaboration and communication. And maybe also looking at, can digital technology reduce disparities by improving participation opportunities in clinical trials? So it wasn't entirely negative, and many of our organisations reported that although operationally they were having to cut staff or cut staff hours, cut staff salaries, they were seeing some operational positives as well in research management by being able to use Zoom, for example, for meetings and having more people participate than would normally do. So that's the end of the presentation. Please do ask any questions or comments. It'd be really interesting to hear what your cancer research concerns or priorities are for your ECHO group, and to see whether there are overlaps perhaps with some of the experiences that the funding organisations who are part of ICFE are experiencing, and is there an opportunity for ICFE to help you by providing data? Open to all sorts of ideas and suggestions, but thanks for your attention.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lynn. That was really a very powerful presentation, and I really love the questions for discussion. It really makes me think, reflect on what we've been doing, and in relation to this. So, members, the floor is open for discussion. You can verbally ask your question or put up a comment, or you can post on the chat window. When I check on the chat, I can see some comments from, let me see.
Oh yes, but aortic tried to that we would love to have partners. So unfortunately, our annual meeting this year was due to be in London, and we had, I know that we had some participants from the Cancer Research Association in South Africa. Dr. Melissa Wallace was going to come to talk to us. And we would have been very happy to have many more funding agencies join us at our meeting in London.
Yeah, sorry, looks like. Yeah, so, and then that another comment was posted again. Do you foresee this website also being used to access cancer clinical trials in Africa? Journal of Global Oncology Publications. I think that was a comment that Adwan also is trying, to put out.
Yeah.
So we do, go ahead.
We do cover clinical trials in that we include the funding for that trial. So there will be an abstract relating to trials included on the database.
Yes, Lynn has posted questions. African members and partners and working in Africa is a very good question for us to discuss about the local and regional cancer research priorities. As the Africa ECHO, it is the Africa Cancer Research and Control ECHO. We have not really had a well-conceived research agenda and priority for Africa, but I know we have so many African organizations like EOTIC and so on. But again, it is mainly upon the national, the countries to put a research agenda in their national cancer control plan and research priorities. So at this point, I would like to ask some of the countries, especially those that have the National Cancer Control Plan, to share with us if they have any local or regional cancer research agenda in African countries. What I really know, this is really a very good question when I saw it, that actually most of the activities in Africa are driven by donor interests in most cases, because calls come when they have really specified which type of research they can fund and they can work with. So members, please, any comment? Yeah, Amaka, do you know what is happening in Nigeria when it comes to priorities for cancer research?
Thank you, Lynn, for the very enlightening discussions talking about cancer research. And I would actually wanted to, before I answer your question, Annette, I would just actually want her to expand a little bit more on the opportunities for funding clinical trials in Africa. I think Professor Dendina was trying to find out a little bit more about that, considering that one of the priorities for IOTIC during this period is to try to get clinical trials entrenched within the African countries. So I wonder if, sorry to take you back away from your question, but if Lynn could speak a little bit more on what funding opportunities and if they can incorporate it, or what plans they have for this in Africa.
Okay, I wouldn't be able to speak to all of our funding organisations' plans for clinical trials, but I think that there are two things to mention. The first is that one of the new initiatives that we're hoping to have on the ICIP website by the end of September is a funding opportunities webpage. So in that, we will have links to all of the funding streams that our organisations have available. So anybody on the public website will be able to look and see what was being funded, and there's also a space for our funders to particularly highlight any opportunities that are available to any researcher across the world, and of course including researchers in African countries but elsewhere too. So as I mentioned, that will probably go live towards the end of September. We're just doing the last rounds of user interface testing on that at the moment. In terms of the specific opportunities for researchers to apply for funds, then I would probably go back to the slide that talked about the numbers of different funders who were funding within sub-Saharan Africa already, as obviously they will have information available there, and I think probably the slides will be available to you afterwards. So you'll be able to see who was already funding research, and therefore be able to go to their funding opportunity pages to be able to identify whether there's a funding call that is appropriate for you at this point. I should say not all of those will be trials necessarily. It might be preclinical research as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I just wanted to add on that. I think my question focuses on, you have really developed a website that I think is outstanding. So I think my question is more towards, is there a way to be able to access clinical trials, funded trials through that website, through a keyword or a search? Because one of the critical things that is missing is that, you know, and from the series that ASCO just published, there are some, not a lot, but people really do not have a way to be able to access where are those clinical trials and what they are. But if you already have this website and you identify part of the research that is funded that is actually clinical trials, then if there's a way to go to the website with a keyword and find that, I think will be very helpful. That was the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
I see, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, really, thank you so much. That is really very helpful, tracking the trend of clinical trials and funded clinical trials in Africa from all aspects. But I think Lynn only based this on the ICRP website, and I appreciate the fact that we really need to assess this globally. And there is a comment that because Lynn asked how we can suggest on how ICRP can be improved, it will be great to have Africa Cancer funding agencies included as partners as well. I think that is a comment from one of the members on how we can move forward. Any question or comment?
Yeah, I'd like to just speak to, I think, one of Lynn's questions, where she asked what are the local or regional cancer research priorities for ECHO members? I think one of the research priorities for us is in the area of implementation science research. I know we've talked about it before, and we also have something planned for later on in our discussions. I'm wondering if Lynn can just talk a little bit more about the opportunities that exist in this space for us.
Sure. So thank you. That's a great question. And we are working with the CIRGO group, the Coalition for Implementation of Science Research, a couple of members online here already. And actually, just after this call, we have the data group meeting to talk about that and how we pull data from ICRP, but also from other areas to try to build capacity and to share more data so that successful research projects can really be shared effectively for the purpose of implementing them in other locations. So I think that probably our main activity will be working with the CIRGO group and you know, providing the data that we can provide and working collaboratively with them to try to improve data sharing in that area.
Oh, that's really great. Lynn, you pointed out about the priorities, the attention overall, it is less in diagnosis and etiology for your funding, but then it was opposite for sub-Saharan Africa. Did the survey try to find out why that's like that? That instead sub-Saharan Africa is more emphasis on etiology, prevention and treatment other than biology, diagnosis and survivorship, which is different from the overall picture.
Yeah, I mean, what we can see at the moment is obviously you can see what the picture is at the moment, but what would be really interesting to know is, you know, does that match with what priorities are locally for research? One would hope so, but I think that that's a question that one can ask. So, for example, if you see that perhaps diagnosis is low and you think that that should be really the research priority in your area, then that data is a good lever to then say, actually, our local priorities are these. We don't have research proposals happening in that area, and then use that to, you know, lobby for funding or to raise a call for proposals in that particular area from a funding agency. I think that's what we're all about, really, is just, you know, enabling people to see what's there, where the gaps are, and then match that with what the priorities are at a local level.
Yeah, that's really very important. But I think when I was thinking about it, it might not be so much of the priority, but it may be something that resonates with the infrastructure in Africa. As you all know, what it requires to do research in biology diagnosis is really a lot more, and so many funders want to fund institutions and countries that already have that structure set up, and you know how costly it is to have a research lab for biomedical research and so on. So my question is about your funding. Does it provide such is it pre-funding sort of capacity building, in, for example, equipping the lab and so on before the actual research takes place? Because that, I think, has been a very big stumbling block for biomedical research in Africa?
That's a really interesting question. The answer is that I haven't looked in that level of depth at the data, but we can do that because each of the categories we showed, so biology, etiology, prevention, those are subdivided into different categories. So for example, for biology, it ranges from cancer initiation through to metastasis research. But then the last category is resources and infrastructure. So we can actually look to see what funding is being provided to infrastructure in that area. And I will go away after this meeting and have a look to see what's included in that category. So I can't answer the question right now, but we could definitely look into it for you.
Yeah, thank you
and
so
also
much.
in diagnostics, similarly, there are 4 categories. One of them is resources and infrastructure.
Yeah. So Dr. Chuan, you had your hand up, please. Go ahead. Go
Yes,
on.
yes. I just want to contribute a little bit of as an experience in Malawi, as that priority areas for the for cancer research. So I've tried to highlight in the national research agenda that is focusing on the epidemiology, determinants, and distribution of and trends of common cancers in Malawi, cost effectiveness of various strategies for prevention of cancers, including screening programs. As you know, that low and middle income countries that still struggle in terms of the screening for screenable cancers. So we have included that in our national research agenda, and also issues to do with the diagnosis and access to screening for various forms of cancer and treatment. These are some of the research priority areas that we have included in our research agenda for cancer. So I guess I just wanted to contribute something on the research priorities for Malawi. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonathan. That is really interesting and exciting to hear that that is something you have really considered. But to my knowledge, it is not, I think, something we have really well planned to really have a research agenda and priorities. And I think the evidence why we should prioritize this research over this is also something that is not yet well identified. But you have really pointed out very good reminders and points of reflection, Lane, that we really need to develop a local research agenda that we can really work on. Yes, Jonathan?
Yeah, maybe a suggestion. Although that countries have got specific priority areas for cancer research, especially for the sub-Saharan Africa, because some of the social cultural factors could be cross-cutting. I don't know whether it's ideal to have like a little bit of regional block research priority areas on top or in addition to country-specific research areas for the sake of collaboration and all that. I think can be good enough to have maybe a sub-Saharan Africa, maybe look at some because some of the cancers are still common in the region due to maybe issues to do with HIV and the other existing diseases that are contributing to the high incidences of cancers. So I thought maybe it would still be good enough to have some broad areas where maybe as sub-Saharan Africa we can put effort on. That was just my suggestion. It's up to the group to comment on the same as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is really an important area, and all members here, African cancer control leaders, have really had. We really need to really have priorities for research and reasons why. Especially diagnosis is a very big problem in Africa, and it is something we really need to put into, especially you even see it when you're trying for cancer registration. Most cancers are not diagnosed well, the reporting and so on. So, and unless we are able to diagnose and detect cancers early, it is going to be very difficult for us to be on top of the cancer control in Africa. So members, sorry, I have to close the discussion now. And we have another item on the agenda today, welcoming our new steering committee. For those of you who are not with me in the beginning, I told you that our term, which the steering committee I lead, is ending actually today or end of this month. And I would like to welcome the new steering committee. Let me see if I can put out my slides. Yes. Yeah. So this is, we are welcoming the new steering committee that I will, that I will introduce in a minute. And I'm really delighted that we have members who stepped forward when we put our call in the survey. For those of you who may not know, the steering committee leads the overall African ECHO. It sets the ECHO objectives and makes participation decisions and represents the Africa ECHO both internally and externally with partners. So before I welcome this new steering committee that is going to really lead us for this year 2020 to 2021, I would like to really thank the outgoing steering committee as projected here. Thank you so much, this steering committee. It has really led us for the last 2 years, beginning 2018, initially under the leadership of Anne Nganga at the Ministry of Health in Kenya, and then later under my leadership. So thank you so much. I would also like to thank you all, our partners, and a special thanks to the NCI Center for Global Health through Mishka Sira. As you may have observed recently, you are getting a lot of communication from Mishka, and I was chairing almost every single session. This was not by design, actually. It is because of the COVID-19 pandemic that really came around March, April, that almost all of these steering committee members you're seeing were deployed to address the pandemic in their respective ministries. So at one point in time, we thought, oh, maybe we hold the sessions for the Africa ECHO. But thanks to NCI and in particular Mishka, who stepped forward to ensure the continuity of the ECHO sessions. So thank you so much. So if I want to request you all, if it is convenient for you, unmute yourself and we give a round of applause to the outgoing steering committee. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so
well done.
Thank you. So this takes me to welcome the steering committee. I'm really pleased, Amaka and the team, that you have made this commitment to lead us in the next 1 year. It could be 1 year or so. You never know. So many things like the pandemic can come up, and you may go beyond a year. And Amaka and the team, I would like to let you know that the outgoing steering committee did a needs assessment through a survey asking this community about the issues and the topics that needs to be addressed. I would like to let you know these topics made us have the draft curriculum for the whole of next year. And there were so many issues and topics that came up from these members, and which is exciting because it really shows the pressing issues from the African community that we really need to discuss and forge a joint approach to issues like the ones we have been discussing. At the same time, it justifies the need for continuing this Africa ECHO program, and it really provides you, Amaka and the team, an exciting challenge to really meet the expectations and the knowledge gaps and some of the dilemmas to be addressed now and in the future. So because the topics were many and all of them very important. We drafted a curriculum in such a way that sessions are going to be running every 2 weeks, other than monthly, as it was before. And I would like to let you members hear that very soon the steering committee will put out a call, a request for you to volunteer to provide cases or didactic sessions on this session. So please, when you see that email, don't ignore it. Take time, go through the sessions. It's for the whole year, August this year up to August next year. Pick out at least one session in a year and actively contribute. We really would like so much to share a variety of experience and diversity from all of you members, not only African members, but I know even international partners have really worked for some time in Africa. And we would even much wanted to hear from the international partners, because some of us, the issues become so familiar and part of us that we may not even observe the anomaly, or we may not even think on how to address this. So when things are seen from an external perspective, please feel free to share some of the things that we may really need to think about. So thank you so much. And I would like to thank you all who are here for being part of the African ECHO and all the work you are doing towards cancer control in Africa and globally. As you may all know, that cancer is everyone's, it's for everyone. No single institution, country, or continent can really tackle cancer control alone. So I look forward to seeing you again and so many times in the next sessions with a new leadership that is really led by Amaka. So at this time, I would like to invite Amaka to say hi to you and also to introduce herself. Thank you so much. Amaka, please, can you say hi and introduce yourself to the community?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I want to thank you, Annette, and the entire steering committee for the opportunity to be involved in leading this great global community in the next 1 year. It's really an honor, and I must say that when I was asked to chair, I wanted to run away because it seemed like a very huge and daunting task. The impact from the Africa ECHO community in the past 2 years is huge. And I just want to say that on behalf of myself and my steering committee, we look forward to your support, just as you've supported the Annette. We actually crave your indulgence. We would run an open door. We need ideas. Like Annette said, we can't do this on our own. It's a collaborative effort. One thing is sure, the goal and the aims and objectives of this ECHO platform, it aligns very closely with my personal vision of promoting African cancer control on the African continent. So thank you once again for the honor. Thank you in advance for your support. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amaka. I've got a comment from Dr. Odena. Let me show it to you because, what is it? Yeah, she says that I would like to note that the EOTC would love to collaborate with the Africa ECHO on implementation science. We have currently proposed special interest group on implementation science, and we'll have a session focused on implementation science. I would like, and Lee and Annette, yeah, as you see, like to invite you all, one of your officers, to do an interview on ECHO for EOTC YouTube channel. This will be great. We are really excited and we are happy to work with you. Thank you so much. Lee would like to invite you as EOTC, or one of your collaborators, to do an interview about your initiative for a YouTube channel. So thank you so much. We are going to get in touch immediately and see that this is something that happens. So thank you so much. Members, we still have some 5 minutes. Anybody with a comment on the outgoing and the new steering committee? Feel free.
Annette and Amaka, thank you both for your comments, and thank you everyone for this really incredible community, and looking forward to continue to partner with you all. In the spirit of what Annette did earlier, if we could all give Annette and the outgoing steering committee one more round of applause, that would be awesome. Congratulations. You've really seen through a remarkable amount of complexity and challenges, and have really shown resilience. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mishka, for really all the support. Christine, now I would like to, it looks like we are coming to the end. Christine, can you please make some announcements?
Congratulations to the incoming team, and thank you so much, Annette and your team. You have really been supportive to the hub. Thank you, Mishka, too, for your continuous support. We have our next session on September the 3rd. Yesterday, we sent out our upcoming topics all the way from September to December. I hope everybody has received them. So we hope to see you again on September the 3rd. Please note, we are changing the timing. It will be now 1 hour after from what we have been used to. So please let's not get confused on that, because we do not want to miss anybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine, for that announcement. And it looks like we have to end the session now. It has really been a very interesting discussion from Lynn. And members, we can continue discussing this on our base camp, as we all know, about how we can really make sure that the COVID pandemic does not bring a lot of impact on cancer research. And of course, it will impact our cancer control plans. As we all know, we really need evidence to plan and implement cancer control strategies. So I would like to thank Lynn for her time and for sharing such an important piece of work, and for us to know what is available out there, and that great really experience today. And again, I thank you all for attending all the sessions for the whole of this year and today's session. And I look forward to seeing you in the next year and month. And please take care and stay safe. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well done.
Arrivederci. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.